Story 1. The fog rolled in. Then the screaming started. You know how people say, "I'll never forget where I was when I heard the news"? I always thought that was dramatic. Like, who actually remembers mundane Tuesdays? But I remember this one. Every single detail. It was October 12th. A Tuesday. I know because I had just put my son, Leo, down for his nap. He was 2.5, and those naps were my only sanity. I was standing in my kitchen, drinking coffee that had gone cold an hour ago, staring out the window at the backyard. The leaves were just starting to turn. Beautiful, right? That's what I thought. Then I noticed the fog. Not the pretty, misty kind you see in hiking photos. This was different. It came from the tree line at the edge of our property, maybe 50 yards from the house. At first it was just a pale ribbon, low to the ground, like dry ice at a school play. But within 5 minutes, it had swollen into a wall. A solid, roiling white-gray mass that swallowed the oak tree, then the fence, then the bird bath. I remember laughing nervously. "Weird weather," I said to the dog, a golden retriever named Gus. Gus didn't wag his tail. He was staring at the fog with his head cocked, ears flat against his skull. That should have been my first clue. Animals know. By the time the fog reached the back porch steps, the whole yard was gone. Not dark, just blank. Like someone had erased the world past the sliding glass door. I felt this pressure in my ears, like when a plane takes off, and then I heard the first scream. Came from the neighbor's house to the left, the Wilsons. Carol Wilson was in her 60s, a sweet woman who brought us casseroles when Leo was born. Her scream wasn't a shout. It was a shriek that went up, then down, then cut off mid-breath, like someone had flipped a switch. I froze, coffee mug halfway to my lips. The silence after that scream was worse than the scream itself. Then another scream. From the right, the teenage girl, Mia, who babysat Leo sometimes. Hers was higher, younger, and it kept going, a sustained note of pure terror that made my knees buckle. Then more. From across the street. From the house behind ours. From multiple directions at once, layering over each other like a choir from hell. Some were deep, guttural. Men, I thought. Some were thin and reedy, like children, and some weren't human at all. Those were the ones that made my vision blur. They had a wet, tearing quality, as if the sound itself was ripping through flesh. I didn't run outside. I'm not a hero. I did what any parent would do. I ran to Leo's room. He was still asleep in his crib, one thumb in his mouth, his little chest rising and falling. I scooped him up so fast he woke with a startled cry. "Shoo, baby, shoo," I whispered, but my hands were shaking so hard I nearly dropped him. The fog was inside the house now. I don't mean it came through the cracks. I mean it materialized. One moment the hallway was clear. The next, tendrils of that white-gray nothing were curling around the doorframe, reaching toward the crib. It didn't smell like normal fog, earthy or wet. It smelled like hot metal and rotten sweet potatoes. And it hummed, a low, subsonic thrum that I felt in my molars. I ran for the front door, barefoot, holding Leo, Gus at my heels. I yanked the door open and stopped. The fog was everywhere. Our street was gone. The cars, the mailboxes, the streetlights all swallowed. The only thing visible was a patch of concrete 3 feet from the doorstep. And on that concrete something moved. At first I thought it was a dog, low to the ground, for legs, dark fur. But it turned toward me, and the fog parted just enough for me to see its face. It had no eyes, just smooth, gray skin stretched over where eyes should be. But the mouth was open, and inside that mouth, not teeth. Needles. Hundreds of thin, translucent needles, all quivering. It made a sound. Not a scream. A whisper. A single word in a voice that was somehow mine and not mine. Leo. I slammed the door, locked it, deadbolted it, leaned against it with my whole body, clutching Leo to my chest. He was crying now, big hiccuping sobs. Gus was growling low in his throat, backing away from the windows. The screams outside had stopped. All of them. The silence was absolute, except for the hum of the fog. And then knocking. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the front door. Not frantic, not desperate, patient. I didn't answer, couldn't. I just slid down the door onto the floor, held my son, and waited. The knocking came again 3 more times. Then nothing. For the next 4 hours, I stayed in that hallway. No cell service, no landline, no power after the first hour. The fog pressed against every window, turning the daylight into a dim, underwater twilight. I didn't see any more creatures, but I heard them, dragging sounds in the attic, scratching inside the walls, and every few minutes, a single soft tap on the glass, as if something was out there, watching, waiting for me to make a mistake. Around 4 p.m., the fog began to recede, slowly, like a tide going out. The screams didn't come back, but neither did the silence, because now, from every direction, I heard a new sound. Crying. Not human crying. Something else. Something that was trying very hard to sound human. That was day 1. Story 2. There was someone standing in the fog behind my house. The fog lifted completely by sunset. I'll never forget that sky, crimson and orange, beautiful in a way that felt obscene after what we'd heard. I carried Leo to the front window and looked out. Our street was still there. The houses, the lawns, the minivans. But something was wrong. The cars had their doors open. A few houses had their front doors wide open, swinging in the breeze. And there was no one outside. No police. No neighbors checking on each other. Just an empty, suburban ghost town. I made a decision. Stupid, maybe, but I had to know. I strapped Leo into his stroller, grabbed a kitchen knife, and walked next door to the Wilsons' house. The front door was ajar. I pushed it open. The living room was undisturbed. TV off. Knitting on the coffee table. A half-eaten sandwich on a plate. But the back sliding door was shattered. Glass sprayed across the carpet like sugar. And on the floor, leading out into the backyard, were 2 long, wet trails. As if something had been dragged. I didn't go further. I turned around, went home, and locked every door and window. Then I did the only thing I could. I waited. That night, Leo woke up screaming every hour. Not his normal nightmare cry. This was a shriek of genuine terror. His little eyes fixed on the corner of his room where the darkness seemed thicker. I slept in the rocking chair next to his crib, knife in my lap, Gus pressed against my feet. Around 3 a.m. I saw it. I was half asleep when I noticed a change in the light outside Leo's window. Not moonlight, too white, too diffuse. I stood up slowly, parted the blinds with 2 fingers, and looked into the backyard. The fog was back. Not the full wall from before, but patches of it, drifting between the trees like ghost sheets. And standing in the middle of the lawn, maybe 20 feet from the house, was a figure. Person. At least it had the shape of a person. Tall, maybe 6 feet. Dressed in dark clothes, a coat, I thought, or a robe. But I couldn't see its face. The fog swirled around its head like a hood, hiding everything above the chin. It wasn't moving, just standing there, facing my house, facing Leo's window. My first thought was neighbor. My second thought was no. Neighbors don't stand in your yard at 3 a.m. in fog that smells like a dentist's drill burning. My third thought was don't look away. I watched it for a full minute. It didn't blink, didn't shift its weight, didn't breathe. At least, I couldn't see any breath fogging the air. Then, slowly, it raised one arm. Not pointing, not waving, just raising. Palm open, fingers slightly curled, as if offering something invisible. I pulled the blinds shut, grabbed Leo, ran to the basement. We stayed down there until dawn. I don't know if the figure followed. I didn't look. The next day, I tried to leave. Packed a bag, put Leo in the car, turned the key. The engine started fine. But when I backed out of the driveway and turned onto the main road, I saw it. A wall of fog, blocking the way out of the neighborhood. Solid, impenetrable. I sat at the edge of it for 10 minutes, engine idling, staring into that white nothing. And I heard something from inside the fog. A voice, a single word, repeated over and over, growing louder each time. Stay, stay, stay. I drove back home. That night, the figure returned. Closer this time, standing at the edge of the patio, just below the back steps. The fog was thicker, but the figure was clearer. I could see details now. The coat wasn't a coat. It was skin. Gray, wrinkled skin hanging in folds, like a bat's wings folded against its body. And its hands, God, its hands. Too many fingers. Long, boneless things that swayed gently even when the figure was still. It wasn't facing the house anymore. It was facing the side of the house. Facing the basement window. The window where Leo's crib was now sitting because I'd moved it down there. I stopped breathing. The figure tilted its head. A slow, mechanical motion, like a camera on a tripod, and looked directly at me. I know it couldn't see me through the wall, but I felt its attention like a hand on my chest. Heavy, cold. Then it smiled. I saw the mouth, wide, lipless, stretching ear to ear. And inside, not teeth, needles, just like the creature from the first day. Hundreds of translucent needles, dripping with something dark. It didn't move toward the basement. It just stood there smiling, while the fog coiled around its ankles. And then it spoke, not out loud inside my head. A voice that was dry leaves and wet cement and my own mother's whisper all at once. You can't protect him forever. I lost my mind a little after that. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I boarded up the basement windows with plywood from the garage. I emptied every bottle of hot sauce and bleach and ammonia into spray bottles. Homemade weapons, I told myself, even though I knew they wouldn't work. I didn't sleep. I just sat in the corner of the basement, holding Leo, repeating his name like a prayer. Leo, by the way, was quiet now. Too quiet. He didn't cry. He didn't babble. He just stared at the boarded-up window with an expression I'd never seen on a 2-year-old's face. Recognition. Day 3, the fog didn't lift. It stayed, pressing against the windows, seeping through the cracks. The figure was there every night, sometimes closer, sometimes farther, but always watching, always smiling. And on the 4th night, I heard the screaming start again. But this time, it was coming from inside my own house. Story 3. What emerged from the fog wasn't human. I'd like to tell you I fought back, that I was brave. But the truth is, by the 5th day, I was running on fumes and fear. The screams inside the house had been constant for 12 hours. Not loud, muffled, like someone was screaming through a pillow, coming from the walls, the ceiling, the floor, every direction at once. Leo hadn't eaten in 2 days. Neither had I. Gus had stopped moving entirely. He just lay on the basement floor, eyes open, shivering. Around noon, I heard a new sound, a scraping from the basement ceiling, like fingernails dragging across drywall. I looked up and I saw it. The drywall was bulging. A section near the furnace was pushing inward, cracking, splintering. And through the cracks, fog poured down in thin, eager streams. Then a hand pushed through. Not the figure's hand. This one was smaller, more human. Pale. A woman's hand, maybe with chipped nail polish on the fingers. It reached down, grasping at the air, opening and closing like a drowning person reaching for a rope. A second hand joined it, tearing the hole wider. And then a face pressed against the gap. Carol Wilson's face. But Carol Wilson was dead. I knew she was dead. I'd seen the drag marks, the broken glass. Yet here she was, her eyes wide and wet, her mouth opening and closing in a silent scream. She looked at me, looked directly at me, and her expression wasn't one of terror. It was hunger. "Help me," she whispered, but her voice was wrong. Too deep, too many harmonics, like two people speaking at once. I backed away, holding Leo so tight he whimpered. The hands kept reaching, the face kept pressing. And then the drywall gave way entirely, and Carol Wilson fell into the basement. She landed on her feet, too smoothly. Her neck was bent at an angle that should have killed her. But she turned her head, slow and deliberate, and smiled. Her teeth were gone. In their place, needles. "He's hungry," she said in that double voice. "Let us feed him." I ran. Up the basement stairs, through the kitchen, out the back door. I don't know why the back door, except that the front was closer to the fog wall. I burst onto the patio, and the fog was everywhere. So thick I couldn't see my own feet. The figure was there, 10 feet away, standing in the center of the lawn. It didn't move. It just opened its arms wide, like a parent welcoming a child home. The fog began to twist, to coil, to take shape. From the figure's chest, something emerged. Something that wasn't human. It had a shape, but I can't describe it properly. The closest I can get is this. Imagine a person made out of smoke and splinters. It had limbs, but too many, and they bent at angles that weren't jointed. It had a face, but the features shifted constantly. 1 second a woman, 1 second a child, 1 second a thing with 3 eyes and no nose. It was tall. It was short. It was everything and nothing. And it was walking toward Leo. I screamed. I think I did. I don't remember the sound. I remember dropping to my knees, curling my body around my son, and begging. Not to God. I'm not religious. Begging to the fog, to the figure, to whatever was listening. "Take me," I said. "Not him. Take me." The thing from the fog stopped, tilted its shifting, faceless head. Then it reached out one of its smoke-splinter limbs and touched my cheek. The touch was cold, not like ice, like absence, like the heat had been removed from my skin, leaving nothing behind. And in that moment, I saw everything. Every scream from every house on every street in every fog that had ever rolled in. I saw the figure standing in backyards for centuries, waiting. I saw the things that emerged from the fog, and I saw what they did to the children. They didn't kill them. That would have been mercy. They wore them, like costumes, like puppets. The needles in their mouths weren't for eating. They were for stitching, for attaching a child's skin to their own, so they could walk among us, so they could learn to say, "I love you," in a human voice. Leo was crying now, reaching for me, but his hands were going through the fog thing's chest, because I was already gone. Part of me anyway, the part that was a mother. The figure finally spoke, out loud this time. His voice was soft, almost kind. "We don't want you," it said. "We want the ones who will grow up to forget." Then it smiled again, and the thing from the fog reached down and picked up Leo. I fought. God knows I fought. I clawed at the smoke, at the splinters, at the figure's gray skin. But my hands passed through everything like water. The fog was in my lungs now, cold and heavy. The screaming was back, but it was mine this time, my own voice tearing out of my throat. as the thing carried my son into the white nothing. Leo looked back at me once, just once, and he smiled. It wasn't his smile. It was too wide, too full of needles. Then the fog closed around them, and they were gone. I'm telling you this from a hospital bed. They found me wandering on the highway 3 days later, barefoot, hypothermic, babbling about fog. The neighborhood was still there, the Wilsons' house, Mia's house, all of it. But no one was inside. Just empty rooms, cold stoves, and half-eaten meals. The police call it a mass evacuation. Cult, maybe. A gas leak. They don't believe me. That's fine. I don't need them to believe me. I just need you to understand something. When the fog comes to your town, and it will, because it's always moving, always hungry, don't hide. Don't fight. Don't beg. Just look at your children. Hold them close. And pray to whatever you believe in that the fog chooses someone else's street tonight. Because what emerges from the fog isn't human. But neither are we after it leaves. We're just the empty houses, the broken glass, the drag marks on the lawn, and the needles in our mouths waiting for the next time it rolls in. End of story.